Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how I help my client overcome severe mast cell activation, chronic constipation, digestive issues, food allergies, bloating, and she couldn't even lose weight. She has half of her thyroid removed. She's going to be joining me for a case study, and we're going to be going through step by step the entire protocol with her diet, her nutrition, supplements, everything we did when spending thousands of dollars on doctors for years with no answer. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you briefly kind of describe your health condition before joining my healing program and the biggest challenges you faced with your health before starting this program?
Say prior to joining your program, my biggest concern was mast cell activation syndrome, which is really high histamine levels. So I was constantly flared up, inflamed, had gut issues, just overall didn't feel good, was really tired, had to take a lot of medication in order to control the histamine, which made me really tired. So going through the program, the biggest thing for me was learning foods that I reacted and didn't react to, and allowing me to get off of all of my medication.
I know mast cell activation, when you guys have this, guys, you can be itchy everywhere. You could have redness all over your body. You could just eat a normal food and your nose start running everywhere. So how did this actually affect your overall daily life and well-being?
Tremendously. Yeah, I mean, I was reacting to everything. So 24 hours a day, I have systemic mast cells, so it just moves around my body to different locations constantly. So in order for me to shut that down and function on a daily basis, I had to take up to 6 Zyrtecs on some days. So it really affected my life. Yeah. Clothes I wore, I had to be careful of because they would rub and it would cause it to trigger. Foods would cause it to trigger. A lot of different triggers.
It was more than just bloating with you. It actually was everything. Your whole body was itchy. I remember when you came to me a few weeks in, you showed me a picture from when we started and your back was so red to where we could actually, but you used to draw your name on your back, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I love it. And we don't have that anymore, do we?
Nope, not at all. I haven't had one flare up in almost 6 months.
I love that.
Yeah.
And did you feel like there's any trigger that contributed to these issues before, like in the past when we started?
Well, I think a lot of the triggers were food related, but I didn't realize it until we were able to pull them all out and then start to introduce, like I had the orange issue with citrus. It was, I was definitely reacting to food, but I had so many reactors, I didn't know which one to go to.
Before you came to me, so I know a lot of us, when we struggle with any digestive issue or health issue or Hashimoto's, we go typically the doctor route and we go to so many different people. We get all these different things. If you're bloated or you're constipated, they say, take Tucalax, take Miralax. Can you tell me a little bit about all of the different treatments or doctors and what you did prior to joining my program?
Yeah, prior to joining, I did definitely spend some time going around to different doctors, typical MDs down to naturopaths, allergists. That's actually who diagnosed me. We tried a lot of different medications, but to be honest with you, none of them the only thing that really worked for me was Zyrtec on a high dose. None of the other prescribed stuff even touched it.
It was to the point where you were struggling with not only the bloating, the itchiness, the redness, the swelling, whole body inflammation, like it was 24/7. And how long did you struggle with these? Years when it started as a kid?
Yeah, no, it was about a 3-year journey from the time it started to the time I got diagnosed. And now I'm a whole year and a half after that.
And how soon, when we started, I would say, how many weeks into the program did you actually start feeling better, seeing the results, and what specifically things did you start noticing?
I started noticing some relatively quickly. I would say within the first 2 weeks, I noticed a lot of inflammation in my stomach area started to go down. Probably by week 4, actually, it was probably closer to week 6 was when I really started to lose some inches. And I would say overall gut-wise, I felt better within a couple of days. Probably 5 days of being on it was when my gut started to feel like it was starting to heal. I was starting to go to the bathroom a little bit more regularly. And I also had a lot more energy and I was sleeping really well.
And what type of digestive issues did you struggle with before we started? Did you have constipation, just bloating? Tell a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah. Constipation was a definite thing. It would go from one extreme to the other. It was never just normal. That was going on for a few years. Definitely bloating. I was constantly bloated. I felt like I looked like I was 4 or 5 months pregnant all the time, and I could never get it to go down. Um, those were, I would say, my main symptoms in that department.
Okay. And you said energy, sleep, all of those, were you trying for
Hmm.
weight loss and not seeing results too? Because I know a lot of people, they hear me talk about it,
Yeah.
the fat loss and our gut health and how the two are kind of intermingled.
Yes, definitely. I've been trying to lose, not probably about 8 pounds was where I was kind of looking to lose. So not a lot, but I just for the past 2 years have not been able to get it to even budge. And I was doing a lot of working out, a lot of watching what I was eating. I think at points, honestly, I wasn't eating enough food. I think that's been a big thing with you is like learning that I really need a lot more to support workouts than I thought I did. Um, and honestly, I haven't really lost. I think I'm down about 5 pounds from when I started with you. But my body has reshaped. And so I've really gained a new respect for not getting on the scale every day because it really doesn't matter my weight and my number as much as how my clothes fit and how I feel. And the fact that I'm sleeping really good every night, I feel ready for the day every day when I wake up, which is great. I have half a thyroid. I did have a very large mass in my left lobe. So I had that removed a couple years ago in the midst of all this too. And I am not on any medication to support that. Just working
And do
on
you
its
feel
own.
like the diet and healing the gut and everything has impacted how you felt prior with like the energy and the digestion and even your metabolism
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think I have this whole new respect for food and what it does for your everyday life.
If you guys kind of with me here. So the way that I do my digestive coaching, it's not just about cut all your food out and then, oh, you could add in like go on a low FODMAP diet. And then a few months later, you add everything back in. If you don't get down to the root cause, you need to address what's going on in the gut. So with her, we actually started with something that I call a 4R protocol. We remove a lot of common triggers. She had the mast cell activation. I set all of her macros for her metabolism, started teaching her what to eat. During that time, over those 12 weeks, we actually focused on healing the inner lining of her gut, correcting the insufficiencies in the gut, and then slowly reintroducing things as we are closing up that intestinal lining. Because if we have a lot of leaky gut going on, foods going to the bloodstream, we're highly reactive. And what we were able to do is over that time frame, she's starting to absorb, assimilate her nutrients because we're healing the gut lining. We're able to add more foods in. We actually started increasing her calories to support her energy. And then on top of that, we weren't even hardcore tracking macros. I know you guys think that you need to be
Hmm.
hardcore counting every calorie. How did you find it manageable with macro tracking and losing weight and how we kind of talked about creating these balanced meals?
Yeah. So for the first probably 6 weeks, I was really good about it just because I needed to understand what that amount looked like in a bowl. But once I had a pretty good read on that, for me, tracking becomes a chore and I don't want to do it. It's like my life is too busy to spend 10 minutes at every meal loading food. So I feel like very quickly I got to the point where I understood it enough what it looked like physically that I didn't have to track it, but I was still seeing the results.
And is there any like specific aspects of my program that you found most beneficial, especially for all the challenges and your condition that you were dealing with?
I think the part I really enjoyed the most was the first 6 weeks when we cut everything out. Because I almost had this, I know that sounds weird, but there was still plenty of food to choose from, but I was never hungry, I was never bored, but I felt so good at those first 6 weeks before we started playing around a little bit. So I just really enjoyed taking all that out, but having somebody coaching me on like, I think if I would have done that on my own, I wouldn't have gone so extreme with it. Um, and so having you just in my ear, like, it's all good, like, you're going to get through this, it's going to be great, was just really helpful for me.
And what about now that we introduce the foods?
Yeah. And now, interestingly enough, I feel like I can very quickly very quickly tell if something's going to be a trigger for me. And I've had just a couple little incidences, but I eat so little of it and I can tell so fast that I just stop eating it. Where before I was just constantly inflamed, so I never really knew I was getting more inflamed every time I would eat something like that. So that's been really helpful, just having a totally clean system to where I actually can feel things quickly when it's triggering and being able to shut it down.
So what I take what you're saying is before you came to me, you were eating all these different foods, you were eating a relatively clean diet, but you had so many of these histamine reactions, the chronic constipation, the bloating, and you never knew what was causing it. And that affected your life because you just felt stressed about what to eat and when to eat and the foods. But now, since we kind of cut things out and I explained to you why we're having these reactions, how to overcome them, and we started healing the gut and getting more foods in, you don't let the food run your life now. You know what triggers it, and you know if something triggers it, how to overcome that and get rid of that little bit of response.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to that too, some of the foods that are triggers for me, like oranges and peppers, are foods, they're healthy, right? So they were foods I would just grab thinking I was doing good for my body, but it wasn't good for my body. So just learning that just because it's a healthy food doesn't mean it's good for you.
Yeah, because everyone's body is different. I know like so many
Hmm.
people, like even with me and my gut issues, when I was bloated and I had the mast cell and all these things, I would just Google like probiotics or bloating. And everyone's body is so different. Things like for
Yeah.
you, fermented foods, probiotics, that actually, even bone broth triggers mast cell because of the histamine. So there's so much
Mhm.
information out there. And we have to look at the body as an individual because we could spend years. I know you spent years and thousands of dollars
Yeah.
guessing and going to doctors with no solution.
Yeah.
You
And
got to get to the root cause.
that bone broth thing is so interesting. I'm very grateful you taught me that because that's something I was drinking regularly for years, thinking it was so great for me. And I have not had it since December, and I don't miss it. Number one, and number two, I it had to have been one of my big triggers because it was a regular item for me. Yeah.
And you said you were doing Zyrtec like every day. How long has it been since we've done Zyrtec?
I have taken 2 Zyrtecs in the past 6 months.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
That's it.
huge.
It's huge. I mean, I had days where I was taking 5 or 6 of them to the point where I was so exhausted I couldn't even stay awake. So, yeah, that's huge.
And since we finished, it's been a few months. How
Mhm.
has your health continued to improve? Because I'm not just about getting you a little result and then you just being left in the dust. We teach, we
Yeah.
educate, and we continue.
Yeah, yeah, that's I think the best part is I feel really equipped for how I'm dealing with food, emotionally, physically, all of the above. So it's kind of allowed me to get back into the workout end of things a little more. Doing the training program with you online for that is uh is fun. I feel like I've really cleared a lot off my plate with the food of understanding what's good and what's not. So thank you.
Oh, anytime, it's my
Yeah.
pleasure. We got
Yeah.
to we got to help everyone with the gut issues because it affects us. Has that kind of change? So now overcoming all of the mast cell and the bloating and not pooping because that like literally affects our life so much. We're going to the
Yeah.
bathroom regularly, guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How has it impacted your quality of life now?
Oh, it's so much better. It's so much better. I was down such a hole, I didn't even realize how bad it was, to be honest. But it's great. Yeah. Going to the bathroom regularly, just all of that stuff. The sleep is just, I feel so much better. Impacted quality of life tremendously.
So happy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if someone right now was listening to this and they're going through similar issues, whether it be gut issues or mast cell activation or chronic bloating, what advice would you give to them?
My advice coming from a 44-year-old woman would be take a step back and understand the food because the food, I really believe after this, runs everything. Absolutely. Like I've spent so many hours in the gym trying to change my body, and I have not seen great results. A little here, a little there, but the food thing was drastic of getting my gut healed and feeling better internally.
I love that. And would you recommend this program to anybody else with gut issues or similar health? And if so, why?
Yeah, I definitely would. I signed up for you originally to do your workout program, and you're like, no, I think you'll be a better gut candidate. So I kind of blindly walked into it, to be honest, but I would definitely recommend the program. From a workout avenue, it was great too, but from a food avenue, I really appreciated it. And I would do it because it's life changing. It's 3 months of your life where you can actually learn specifically for you, one on one. The time you give to your clients it's amazing. It really is. And you're a great educator.
Thank you for saying that. I
Yeah.
truly, it's like when you have the gut issues, like I was with you, I spent thousands of dollars going every place. I would sit there and like I would eat a food and then I would Google the food and be like, is this food causing me a reaction? And then because of the stress and anxiety, I would literally get more constipated, have more
Yeah.
reaction, and then I would cut all my foods back down to 0 and be back down to 3 foods. And it's like, I feel like having someone that's gone through it and them being able to say, because I know like a lot of clients with gut issues come to me, and I think you did a similar thing. You had a small reaction to histamine and you cut everything back out of your diet just in a few days. And I'm like, girl, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's a mental component to food when you don't feel good. And you were great. You called me out on it a couple times. And looking back, I could say over my years, it's really been an issue that I wasn't even aware of it. So that one-on-one coaching, I think, is great that you offer that and you're able to, work people through issues that they don't even really realize are issues.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you want to share with my audience today about gut or anything that you like?
I would just say if you're on the fence of doing the program, give it a shot. You're going to learn a ton and you're probably going to feel a lot better.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing your story. It really means the
Yeah.
world to me. I truly just want to help people.
Yeah. Thank you for all